Good evening. I apologise that we were not around yesterday, and to be fair, after the day I've had today, I could do with sleeping. Excuse me. Rather than streaming. However, lace curtains do not make themselves. So this will not be the longest stream in living history, but I find myself torn because I do want to see how this turns out. I do want to get it done. I am excited to see how it will look, and you know, I really am. But at the same time, kind of not. It's weird. It's a bit like the I'd love to have a beautiful garden, but I also don't want to spend any time in the garden making it beautiful. I think that's kind of where my brain's kind of at the moment, is I want to do it, I want to see it done, I want to imagine how it will be, and I've got plenty of ideas for that. Why am I yawning? I literally haven't yawned all day, and the moment I hit go, I start yawning. It's so annoying. Right. But, I as I said, it is more of, I do want to do it, but at the same time, I kind of want to be lazy at the moment and have a snooze, and so it's just not entirely ideal. So let's see where we're at. Got two choices. Oh goodness me. I've got the two choices. I have cloth stitch 1 and cloth stitch number 2. So, I do apologise for having the yawns, but as it goes, that's how it is. Too long. So when I left you a couple of days ago, I was mumbling about how I'd seen some beautiful lace bobbins. Now, I am very close to being able to make them, for I am only missing, well, the sticks. And in true Amazon format, I don't know if anyone else has had this problem with Amazon, but you go to Amazon, you search for something you want, and it says, "Hey, click me, you can have me," and you go, "Yeah, okay." And when you originally hit click me to buy, it said it'll be here, say, tomorrow, or maybe it'll say a couple of days. Really not that far away. But it's only once you actually have paid that it then says, "Oh, well, we slightly lied about that. It's going to be a week now. Because apparently my sticks are now coming from China. Now, I have nothing particularly against the idea, but at the same time, when I clicked gimme, it was strongly implied it would be, well, have been here today. Well, of course, with all due respect to everybody and everything, well, it's not, because, hi Felicity V, how you doing? It's not here today because, well, that's kind of impossible when you consider it's leaving China. So, I I always seem to get this with Amazon. I ordered, I know that feeling well. Very much the same, my dear friend. Very much the same. So, I ordered some Orvis paste. Now, sounds completely weird. It's basically horse cleaner. So, that was its original purpose. Now, apparently it's really big in the quilting area. But the reason I've heard of it was it's also very big in the spinning world. For it is very good for removing dirt, wax, kind of sweaty, grossy smelling things. But all the meanwhile, somehow, being gentle. So it's very good for people who dye stuff because it won't suck all the dye out of your work. It truly is a marvel. And so crafters around the world are getting into Orvis paste. Now I heard of it. It's got me nearly 20 years ago, and I had a big tub of it. And, well, I'm not quite sure what happened to the big tub of it, to be honest. But, so I ordered a new big tub of it. And again, it was the, hey, click, buy, but buy now, have in 2 days. Now, it didn't promise next day delivery. And, that's fine. It's not like I needed it the next day. But, first day, it kind of said, I know, due in 2 days. So you're kind of like, okay. And then suddenly, it's not 2 days. Suddenly it becomes, oh, there's a delay. Now, one of the things I do hate about Amazon is they don't ever justify what the delay is. So let's say, for sake of the argument, you ordered something and it's allegedly on a truck and will be with you by 7 o'clock tonight. Well, let's say it said originally on the thing, 11 a.m. And you're like, oh, good, I'll be here in the morning, I can do this. Well, about 10:30, you check, and now it says 2 o'clock. Oh, that's all right, I can. Okay, well, I've got a bit more time, so I'll do X, Y, Z. I'll do this, I'll do the other. And at about kind of 1:45, you look, and because it hasn't kind of come yet. Hang on, my ear's itching, and you do all of that, and you look at your list, and now it's 4 o'clock. Okay, well, that's a bit disappointing. Never mind, it's still coming, so, Anyway, nearer 4 o'clock, you look, and, now it's going to be 7. Now it says 5. Then at about half an hour later, it will say 6. And then another 20 minutes later, it will say 7. And then it will say by 10 p.m, right? And then suddenly, at about, 9:45, it will say, oh, well, that's okay. It'll be tomorrow. Or it's been delayed. Why? Now, we're not unreasonable people. It's, if there's been some tragic accident, it's not like I'm expecting the driver to brave the battles and, come back from the dead or, we're not unreasonable. But initially, you reckoned it was going to be here for 10 o'clock. So when you planned the route for people, because the delivery drivers don't get to pick, so in the times when you do have it occasionally go, hey, 8 stops to go, you can watch your parcel. Well, sometimes, the reason you see it driving around and around and around and around is because it is. Because they don't pick the order, and it's not necessarily... It's right, I've realised I forgot to add a percent. Oh no, I did. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stupid 5. And so, they don't get to pick, and they actually get fined if they don't. So even if they know they've got to go, let's say they've got one for me, and they know, because they've looked down the list, that they're going to see my neighbour later, if they give my neighbour their parcel now, they will get a fine. And so I do have a lot of sympathy for them. I really do, because, you know, most of them are nice enough people. But at the same time, when you're watching your parcel be late, and it starts off as, you know, kind of like, oh, blimey. Hello. Hello to Power Falcon. Hello. Hello, hello. I do like the fact that your little icon says bleed purple. Surely Falcons bleed green. Where's my stick? There it is. But yes, I was just having a bit of a rant. Fair enough. Is Eurovision this week? Okay. I confess, I haven't actually turned my TV on in a very long time. I do watch some streaming stuff, but I haven't watched actual TV for a very long time now. I see. Yes. That sounds perfectly good. We like knitting here. We like all forms of craft, to be honest. I am a multi-crafting kind of person, but I am streaming bobbin lace because, well, my brain and I have many disagreements in life, and my brain often wishes to do projects that it is really not entirely capable of doing. And so part of this is to document my insanity. I love cables. Do love the texture you get, and the varying amount of textures you can get by cables. Well, I think we all suffer a bit from that. We discussed this the other day, is that your brain sits there and suddenly goes, hey, human. Yes, brain. I've got this really outstandingly lavish idea, and if you do this, you'll be heralded best in class. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah. Well, I don't tend to do a lot of other things on stream because, as you may have noticed, my actual face is not visible. I do look a lot like my picture, do not get me wrong, but I am not. I am generally less comfortable being visible. So a lot of things like weaving and spinning, and I feel it would be difficult to do very well without showing too much of that. But I also game. I spend a lot of time gaming. Hell, I was up till 4:30 this morning. Please do not judge for the fact that I've now got the yawns because I've been wide awake all day. But now the moment I've hit go on stream, I've started yawning, and this is a common issue. It's almost like an allergic reaction, and so hence I have the little comment about yawning at the bottom of my stream. And I think that's part of the problem with weaving. It's hard to have the camera so that people can see anything worth seeing, other than you going stomp, throw, bash, and without it being in your way, without it, it is very difficult, I think, to, especially if you are on your own and you're doing, you've got to be kind of responsible for the camera work. If you had a partner or a paid helper, like a lot of the really big YouTubers do, kind of thing, so you have a cameraman, if you have a cameraman, well, he can come and go and move but when it's when you have got to do all of this, and you're trying to do it live, so it's not like you're going to make a YouTube video and you can't, like, record a couple of bits and splice them together and, cut out the ugly bits. And no, this is it. And this is why, to be honest, camera looks at my lace. I can zoom in, I can zoom out, I can wiggle it around a bit. You don't need to see my face. It's not the interesting bit, I assure you of that. And so, as a result, lace making does lend itself very much to being on stream, because, well, you put your pillow down on the table and, well, then you work on it. So from that point of view, yes, my camera's overhead, so I've got an overhead ring light, and my camera's mounted to that. But other than that, it's quite practical. I mean, occasionally, so for example, normally there's a bit more off the bottom, and sometimes it slips down a little bit, but it is a very practical kind of thing in that respect. But as you say, with knitting, spinning, weaving, I mean, even this, I can't give you a me side view without making my own life unbearably difficult. I've got a bolster pillow, which, for demonstration purposes, I'm going to use a tub of cotton, right? Now, I look here and work on this bit, but you can only see this bit. But if you wanted to see what I see, you've got to sit where I sit, Yeah, I mean, in that sort of situation, it's not bad. But if you had a normal spinning wheel, so a foot treadle spinning wheel, you kind of want people to see a bit more of the process. You don't really just want to see a bobbin going around a little bit. And so you'd want to have a view of the wheel. But then if you've got a view of the wheel, you can't really see anything. It's really difficult to kind of... And the same's true with a floor weaving loom. If you've got a nice big floor weaving loom... But that's exactly my point, is that for you, when you make it, you don't really look at your foot going up and down. You don't really look at the bottom half of your spinning wheel. You kind of look at the orifice and occasionally over the top to see how well the bobbin's going. But you're kind of looking at your hands, the orifice, and kind of not a lot else. Well, you can't really do that with a camera. Especially if you do long draw, because, well, that's just voodoo. And, because of the treadle voodoo that goes along with it, well, how do you film that? Because, right? And so, a lot of these things don't lend well to being filmed. And I equate it to a lot of sports, to be honest. There are a lot of sports in the world that if you, as an individual, decide to get off bum and go out and do said sport, you probably will have a lot of fun. If you drag your partner, friend, whatever with you, because they like you and are seeing you enjoy yourself, they will probably enjoy yourself. But when it comes to, say, watching golf on TV, frankly, it's really dull. Because, whack! And then the cameraman zooms in on a little bit of sky, and you go, oh, there's nothing in that bit. And then suddenly, tunk, there it is on the grass. Repeat for hours. And it's... I mean, even if you're really into it, it kind of bites. And there's a lot of sports where watching it on TV, even if you're really into it, being there, yes, playing it even more so. And to me, crafting follows the similar kind of thing, is that as a crafter, to do the craft, awesome, love it, love the things that you make that come out the other end. You know, occasionally maybe you don't like sewing it ends or whatever, but, you know, primarily love doing the actual thing, love the thing that you can make, love the usefulness or the prettiness or just the challenge or whatever it is. But as a spectator sport, now, hence on my channel, while we are making net curtain, and to be honest, the net curtain is going to be half a net curtain, because we are going to abandon the squares and change to strips. I do struggle with, you know, kind of, I almost can't imagine why you people come, right? Because there is a casual, oh, I wonder how that's done. Flick, flick, flick. Yeah, I kind of get it now. Bye. Now, I do have some regulars and I love them all very dearly. But at the same time, they're nuts. I mean, I'm doing this. I'm the idiot doing it. Although, we did have one person come along on my YouTube, because I record these and it goes on to YouTube afterwards, right? And someone came onto YouTube and went, I can't remember we'd been talking about ADHD, because, you know, it's an interesting subject, and some of the variations that go along with it, and, you know, and some of the, you know, you can do this, you can do that, and, you know, it's not necessarily, you know, oh, Blue Smarty, I've gone off and done something else now. While that can be a part of ADHD, it's not necessarily all of it, and, you know, all those kind of things. And this person started off, they made a generic comment about how, you know, well, it's not just, you know, not being able to sit still for 5 minutes, and it's kind of like, no, we kind of covered that, actually, but okay. And then they replied about 3 days later, kind of all but having a go about how I'm the one doing this stupid, useless hobby, and, you know, perhaps I need to be tested for it, because, you know, being able to do this kind of dullness for 4.5 hours is a sign of ADHD, or that you want to get it done. For anyone who's ever done a rather boring job, you do it for 8 hours of the day, and that's what you're paid for. Doesn't mean you like it. You know, that's not ADHD hyperfixation of, you know, I am capable of doing my job for 8 hours a day. That's, I've got to because I need the money. You know, it's not necessarily the same. Now, people often say to me, oh, you must be so patient. No, I'm not. I'm sure people here will assure you, I have very little patience. I'm stubborn. Oh, I'm definitely stubborn. But I'm not patient. Very, very much not patient. The words that come out my mouth very much prove I am. It's definitely not the same. And, you know, I mean, if you think of any hobby, most hobbies are an element of hideously repetitious. Oh, good luck with the singing. I hope the people you wish to win. Because, well, I'm not overly a fan of Eurovision. I'm not against Eurovision. I'm just not, you know, it's not one of my compulsive viewings. So, good luck with that. If I'm still around when they're done, please tell us who won and what. And but failing that, thank you very much for coming, and I hope to see you again. Yeah, crafting is not necessarily about patience. Crafting is about wanting the end result and being stubborn enough sometimes to keep doing it, because most of our hobbies, whether it's knitting, cross-stitch, spinning, pottery, art, clothes making, pretty much every craft that is out there is a large amount of repetition and I was kind of into watching it in the 80s and early 90s. And, there'd be a handful of songs that you'd be like, this is nice. And then there'd be a few kind of like, and this is the best your country has to offer. Oh, goodness me. Now, don't get me wrong. Usually it was one of the UK ones that was pretty terrible. I think, to be honest, the last decent UK one we had was Johnny Logan and Hold Me Now. Wasn't that like 1990 or 89 or something? But, some of them have been like, cats in a washing machine. To be kind to them, Now, some of it was, unfortunateness, but it didn't stop them standing on the stage, sounding like cats going round in a washing machine. This is, no, seriously, is this the best we truly, truly have to offer? The answer to that is no, it's not. And so, I don't know, I don't know whether it's just because I'm older, but I found lots of things that I really used to enjoy watching. I don't anymore. For example, I used to be an avid Formula 1 fan. I would not have missed that for a month of Sundays. And in the last 5 years, I've gone from, practice starts at like 4:30 in the morning. Oh, I'll be up to watch that then. To, was it on this weekend? Okay. I almost can't tell you who's racing anymore. And I don't mean it in a horrible way, but they put so many safety aspects in, so many new rules about, everyone must stop and everyone must this and everyone must that it's not really about the race anymore. It's it's almost like those childhood, horse racing games where it kind of has teeth and slips in it, and the horses are moving along a straight line, and suddenly your horse will not move for a bit, and you're like, but I was winning, and it just sits there like a lemon, and the cars go round and round and round and round and round, and basically whoever pits at the best time win, the most appropriate, so if it starts raining, if there's, someone crashes out and they were the last one in the pit or whatever, then they kind of win, and you're like, okay. There is skill in it, but an awful lot of it is the computer predicts this and the computer predicts that, and they say don't do this now, do it later, and that, if so-and-so bits at this point, well, we need to be in within so much time or they'll have a lead on us, or if we do this, we might be able to move ahead of them and gain some time here, and okay, whatever. It's not about the man behind the wheel, kind of going bat out of hell style round and round the course. And, it is, but it's not the deciding factor anymore. The driver's skill is not really the key feature. An awful lot of it now is the stability of the car. And it is a good thing, because it is supposed to be, teams, not a dude. But you know, it's just that kind of thing, right? And I went off it. You know, staying in bed instead of getting up at 3:30 to watch practice or qualifying or whatever. It started off with I'll watch it later when they rerun it in the afternoon, because, you know, it's not like that's not going to happen, because you have, like, takes quite a while for qualifying to run, and so they do, like, a highlights in the afternoon, and you're like, yeah, I'll watch that, because, you know, it's not the race, but I'll get up for the race. And then, kind of like, you know, you stay in bed for the qualifying, and, you know, you get up and you kind of go, oh, I didn't really miss anything. Okay, that's the running order. Okay, great. And the race would come, and the race would go round and round and round and round, and the people you expected to win kind of did, and generally it was not necessarily exciting. And I mean, there were definitely some, but they got fewer and further between. And so, yeah, I really went off it. And it was the same with Eurovision. I've never really been into, you know, Celebrity Get Me Out of Here and, you know, In the Jungle and Big Brother and, you know, all of this kind of crap. I am distinctly not into Strictly. Now, I respect those who do. I really do. If that floats your boat, oh, hallelujah. But please understand, it does not float mine. I've never really been into any of those, but, you know, I've always been quite picky of the sports I enjoyed. Realistically, it boiled down to diving, gymnastics, and Formula 1. I'm not really into watching anything else. But at the same time, I'm happy for those who want to watch other things. But in true British format, one of the big problems we have here in the UK is that we used to have Grandstand on a Saturday, and it was the big sports show and lots of sporting events, and they'd do, like, you know, at 2:00 we'll cut to Wimbledon and we'll show a bit of Wimbledon, and then at 3:00 we'll do half an hour of the women's gymnastics, and then there'll be a little bit of swimming, and then we'll go back, you know, we'll get the football results, and then we'll, you know, and so they had a variety. But they kept losing sports because other people would pay more because, well, they had advertising. So then it pretty much boiled down to the BBC had darts, tennis, and I think it was snooker. Now, snooker is not really a spectator sport. Darts, definitely not really a spectator sport. Playing tennis, phenomenal. Watching it on TV, I don't find the fascination. I mean, I don't hate it, but I'm not going to drop all I'm doing to go and watch, you know, two idiots whacking a ball around a court, because it's not like I know them, and it's not like I'm there doing it. So, you know, if there's something better on, well, I'd rather watch that. And because they then obviously weren't getting the viewing numbers, they then couldn't justify the stuff that they did have. And so, you know, the BBC lost basically all the sports that they'd originally had. And, well, but the problem is they still wanted to pull, you know, oh, we've got sports for 6 hours. Yeah, 6 hours of watching golf. Yeah, let's not. I mean, I'm sure there's, 3 people around the UK who go, oh my goodness, this is the best thing that ever happened in golf. Yeah, it's the rest of us. No. And, and what always annoys me is that, for sake of the argument, Wimbledon is a really good example of this. So, 9 o'clock in the morning, Wimbledon fires up, people start, the matches start running, and let's say BBC One is showing Wimbledon. On BBC Two, there will be Wimbledon. Now, it'll be a different match, but it will be Wimbledon. So, suddenly, out of the ones that you pay your licenses for, basically the 2 channels are showing tennis. Nothing else. All of the other programmes, all the regular things that you were following on, whether it was a series, whether it was tennis. And then come the evening, BBC Two will start showing the exact same match that is on BBC One for about half an hour to allow you to turn over so that BBC One in the evening can do the 6 o'clock news. And BBC Two will continue the tennis. And the moment the tennis closes for the day, highlights of Wimbledon. So you're now going to summarise the last, 8-9 hours of TV by making us watch it all again. I'll pass on that if you don't mind. And it's just one of those things is that, I mean, for example, I am not exactly a football fan. I've never pretended I was really a football fan. But at the same time, I can understand that, the World Cup, the Europeans, whatever, right? This doesn't feel right. Hang on. If you go in here, let me do calculation in progress. So there needs to be 1, 2, 3. See, I've got one too many. Take care, Fleece and Bee. I think I missed one. That's okay. I don't think I missed it that long ago. So what did I miss? If you think of how you would do a diagonal in Lego, so if you had 4 blocks, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you wanted to make a diagonal, you start with this block. You don't actually move this block here. You now make this one. So it's not that you bend it and it moves sideways. You chunk over. So in terms of threads, if you use, these threads to make it then move to the left, you take 2 off this side and add 2 more on this side. So it moves over, which is how the diagonals work. Now, I think somewhere I screwed up. And the reason I'm confident of this is because I've got the wrong number of bobbins at the end. Now, this is not an uncommon problem, but at the same time, it's not always hugely apparent what I did wrong to get there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There, you see that? And that's the pair that joined last, so that makes it 5. That's fine. But I am pretty damn confident that somewhere it does mean I didn't. There it is. You see, look, I didn't take a pair out at this pin here, so I've actually got to go back further than I thought, because I thought it was the other end of this row that I didn't add a pair. Now, maybe I miscounted and because that can be a thing. But I've got a feeling that come removing this pin, there is no extra pair of bobbins. No, there is an extra pair of bobbins. It was hiding. What's his co-worker done now? Oh, he's put his chair together. Sweet. Go back and put you up there, because somewhere I screwed it up and we need to find out where it was. Now, in part, it's going to be round about here somewhere. Now, I can never tell which way round bobbin's twisted. I can't see the threads. So realistically, it's here or the other end of this row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you see, you shouldn't be here, which means I didn't add one at the beginning of this row. And you're getting too long and you're getting annoying. And I've just watched you grow again, thanks for that. So if I pull this out, see, I didn't add a pair here, see, I was right. Now, you are too long. When I say they're too long, what do I mean? When I say it's too long, it's because they need to be of similar length. Otherwise, when you move them around, you end up with kind of bits of string versus bobbin, and it makes it a lot harder to makes it much easier to screw it up, frankly. So, you need to come in, and you need to go out, because, well, you're a thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. You now get a pin like this. Now don't get me wrong, sometimes I do this and realise it's still not right. But, you know, for each mistake you eradicate, it is one less problem, and eventually there will be none. You know, you don't always notice the problems because, well, you know, day with a wine it. And, you know, to err is to human, you know, very much. So, what's he said now? Oh, look. The lady who winds me up on YouTube has posted a video. I will watch that later. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why do I want to watch a video of a lady who winds me up? Well, because potentially she knows some interesting things. The problem is her videos always seem to be, I know this really clever thing. Bye. Oh, cheers for that. Now, obviously, please remember that this is somewhat of a joke, but it is almost like, hi, I've got the cure for cancer. Sucks to be you. Bye. It's kind of how it comes over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't think she means it that way, but it's how it comes over. And apparently I am not the only one who finds the videos a little bit grating. And so I feel slightly vindicated, and it's not just me. But at the same time, it still doesn't stop her videos grating on my soul. Because while I sit here arguably making a video, and I'm not really telling you what I'm doing, at the same time, I have done. In many number of the videos, I've explained what I'm doing, and, you know, explained the stitches and how they work, and, you know, muttered about it. And, you know, should someone be interested and say, Liz, can you explain how this works? Yes, of course I can. I am no guru. I am not, you know, a master lace maker. I am just a willing learning practitioner. But it's very rare you see this particular lady actually making any lace. Now, I don't dispute that she can. I really don't. But she also seems to personify many of the things that, well, I am not. And it's just, we are polar opposite people. And so, you know, it's a bit like the slow, carefully planning person with the buzzing gnat fly. It's sitting there going, zzz, and you're like, just go slowly in a straight line, and you kind of get there at the same amount of time. And it's kind of like, I put in a lot less effort, I'm a lot more chill, and, you know, you're kind of all burnt out, you've run a marathon, and all you've done is walk across the sitting room. you know, it is that kind of, for me, that's kind of how it turns out. And I don't want to hate her. I really don't. I don't hate her, but I don't want to, you know, dislike her videos. I don't want to, I don't want, you know, I want people to be able to get the information they need. And if all you're going to do is basically come on, gloat that you can do it, and walk off again, you're part of the problem. You know, I mean, there was a report that came out very recently about how about crafts that are dying out here in the UK, and there are quite a few. I do mean there are quite a few. But as part of the dying out crafts, lace bobbing making is one of them. There are some other ones, corn dolly making, I can do that too. You know, there are some others that are, you know, basically Welsh blanket making, I know how to do that. And one of the main reasons I bought the floor loom I did was because, well, I want to make a Welsh blanket. I know exactly how, I just haven't actually sat down and done it. I've done tea towels that are made in the same way, but I've not actually, I made tea towels out of it, don't ask. In the same way, it's just not a Welsh blanket pattern, and I've not made a blanket out of it. You know, it's a bit like a scarf is only a strip of a blanket. You know, it is the same stuff, perhaps you just did a smaller width of it. And I, you know, as I say, I, you know, so one of the things the main reasons I bought the loom I did was so I could make me a Welsh blanket. It's very much on the forefront of my mind. And I worked out how to make the Welsh blanket for myself. I did not find instructions. I set about, well, this is what it's going to look like. You know, here are the things that I do know that are true about it. This, therefore, must be true. This must be this. You know, if X is Y and Z is 2, then, you know, well, you know, the answer can be that A is this and B is the other, right? And it was kind of one of those moments, and you know, I drew it out on a weaving pattern program, and hey presto, out would come. Should I sit down and do the stomp bash throw thing? A Welsh blanket. And like we were saying about how it is not really a hyperfixation. It's not really patience. It is persistence. It is stubborn. It is not giving up in crafting. Because, well, you think of knitting, poke, wrap, pull. Crochet, poke, wrap, pull. Sewing, poke, poke, poke. Or poke, pull, poke, pull, poke, pull. Latch hooking, poke, wrap, pull. Corn dolly making, soak the bejesus out of it for a really long time, tie a knot in the bottom, grab a bunch of sticks, bend, 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 bend. That's what I wanted. Tuck in the ends. Hallelujah. Let it dry. You know, it is very much repetition. And, well, the size of the object does not necessarily mean harder. And the things that make something hard are the constant changing of a pattern, the keeping the pattern when perhaps the pattern is not hugely apparent, so that it makes it much harder to read. So, for example, for those who have done double knitting, because the current row doesn't show, it is only on the needles, it is easy to make a mistake and get it wrong. And it's not that you want to do it wrong, it's just really, really easy to put it down, go make a cup of tea, come back, sit down, and start on the wrong place on your pattern, because, well, it's really easily done. And it's those things that make something complex. I mean, this neck curtain was originally going to be the best part of 18.5 inches by 38 or something. I think it was something like, 50 centimetres by 97 or something. Somewhere around there, I have the details somewhere. But it's not really the size that's the problem. And in fact, for me, the size is not the problem. For this is triangle 31. And, well, it's the same as the first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth. I'm a bit bored of triangles. And it doesn't grow very fast. Lace making is not a speed sport. Very much not a speed sport. And as a result of not being a speed sport, it gets very boring. Now, as I said, it's not about the patience. For it really isn't. Because if you are capable of lifting one object over the other, you are capable of making lace. Should you want to do so. And that, of course, is often the thing. You get... I know lots of crafters will join me in the frustration of listening to, hang on, spambot. Listening to some, usually a woman, but, because it just is for some reason. But, listening to someone who comes along, looks at what you've done and go, I couldn't possibly do that. Well, I don't know. What makes you think you can't? Well, thanks for thinking I'm special in some way. But at the same time, I kind of know I'm not. So, well, what makes you think you can't? Oh, I haven't got the time and the patience. Okay, maybe you don't have the time for it. Because, a lot of crafts are not exactly a speed sport. Fair enough, maybe you don't have the time for it. But like a lot of things, if you really wanted to find the time, it is amazing how you can. There are women who spend 2 hours putting makeup on their face every morning. I haven't got time for that. But I can spend 4.5 hours making a piece of lace. Because, well, the piece of lace will live on. My face, I'll have rubbed that crap off by 20 minutes later, so there's no point. I don't wear makeup because I touch my face too much. People who can go shopping for hours. People who can, watch reality TV for hours. You have the time. You just choose to spend it differently. And I respect that. It's your time. You're allowed to do what you like with it. But don't be dissing my time spent because you wouldn't choose to do so. I've always been a strong believer in that most people are capable of doing most jobs to a reasonable level, should they wish to try. Now, I'm not saying I'm a great surgeon and I'm an astrophysicist and I should be on the team, working on the cure for the next big thing. I'm not saying that at all. But I would also say that I am very capable of following instructions, and that if we are to test, this compound against these bacteria, well, and we start off with, many few, like one grain of this, and we build it up to see what happens, I'm capable of taking, a small amount of this, adding it to that, and monitoring the result, marking it on a piece of paper, and repeating. Because that's what they do. I am capable of following instructions. I am capable of recognition. I am capable of thought. Well, chances are this covers most things. Now, I'm not claiming I would be great at any of them, but then I don't claim I'm great at anything. So I strongly believe that given an opportunity, a lot more people would be capable or able to do something if they had had opportunities, if they had the inclination, if it was something that would be beneficial to them. So an awful lot of people, think of school, right? When most of us were at school, we were not necessarily happy to be there. Because we just weren't. we were not overly happy to be at school. Hence truancy is there is the word truancy, and kids ditch school because when you're a kid, you want to be out playing. Sorry, I went a bit far. I wanted these ones. And so, to the kid at school, it's not because they can't learn it. It's because to them, there and then, they look at, the fact that it's a blissfully sunny day and they could be out playing football or climbing a tree or running around, whatever it is, right? Not the kids do that these days, but you know what I mean. It's not that they don't want to learn. It's that they know they will enjoy running around outside. They know that sitting indoors, that the last time we tried to talk about this in class, they really didn't enjoy it. And they don't want to do it again because, well, it's boring. It's boring because it's not the thing they want to do, and the thing they want to do is be outside playing. If you can make the thing indoors seem more interesting than the thing out of doors, they will want to do the thing indoors. And obviously, you've got to find whatever floats their boat to achieve that. But if you achieve that, they will do the indoors thing. And doing work is kind of the same, is that it's not necessarily that every one of us woke up once and went, this is my dream job, I want to do it for the rest of my entire life. Quite often, that was not what we wanted to do when, on Careers Day. Is this what, are you doing what you said on Careers Day? Probably not. I'm not. Now, I do look back and kind of go, someone really should have mentioned how dumb an idea and what I wanted to do was, but I wanted to be a school teacher. Now, it is not wrong. I have taught at school. I did all my work experience doing teaching. The only problem is I'm dyslexic and no one noticed. Now, we're not quite sure how no one noticed because, well, all the things they kept complaining about my work are classic dyslexia symptoms. Putting capital letters in the middle, spelling it 20 different times on a piece of paper, the same piece of paper. These are classic symptoms. Ending up spelling stuff phonetically because, who in the hell knew that facetious starts with an F? We say facetious, like version. I expected it to be a V. I didn't friggin' know. And I'm not going to. I'm not too proud to admit that even as an adult, I prefer listening to audiobooks because I don't then spend half an hour debating whether a word's this, that, or the other. I've got a Kindle, which does help, but I listen to it and I get to enjoy the book a lot more when it's an audiobook. And I did that as a child. Again, kind of a giveaway. It's not that I didn't want to hear the book. It's not that I didn't, I wasn't prepared to sit and listen to it for hours. It was, I struggled to read it for hours. But at the same time, if you can make it interesting by turning it into an audiobook, well, suddenly you get their attention. Suddenly it's fun. Suddenly, and this was kind of the conversation we were having about ADHD, was that if you have a kid in a doctor's waiting room, because we all know that being in a waiting room with the loud screaming, wailing kid is not funny. Especially when, I don't know what other countries are like, but in the UK, if you have a doctor's appointment, if you are literally 2 seconds late clocking in, they will tell you you've missed your appointment and basically you are the reason the world is coming to an end. But you will sit there for 90 minutes and beyond your appointment time, and there is still no sign of hope of going in. But God forbid you are late by, seconds. And so when you sat there for 90 minutes, well, more than 90 minutes, because of course you didn't want to incur the wrath of the receptionist by being late. So, when you sat there potentially for, getting on 100 minutes or so, and little Johnny is screaming and wailing and running up and down and smashing things and he's found one of the toys that they have out for kids to play with, and he's running around, chucking it and screaming and throwing it at people. And Mummy's kind of going, "No, Johnny, hey, do sit down, dear." And you're kind of like, "No, love, no, you need to kind of get off your butt, and you need to take little Johnny, and you need to kind of explain to him that if he doesn't sit still, he's not going to make it to his next birthday, because if you don't, we might." And especially if little Johnny's got snotty nose or rash or whatever, clearly he has got something wrong with him, and he's spreading it around the waiting room. Because, of course, that's the other problem with doctors' waiting rooms, is that, you've been told you've got to come along for a routine, blood pressure test. There's nothing wrong with you. You just have to have a routine blood pressure test. So you've got no germs, you're perfectly healthy, you're feeling, fairly chipper when you go in. You've now spent 100 minutes sitting on your Todd, no music to listen to other than screaming little Johnny running around and looking at all the people trying to work out what germs you're catching while you wait, right? And I've never forgotten one kid, and I actually felt really sorry for the little Johnny in my story, because little Johnny was sitting very patiently next to Daddy. Or at least male figure. Little Johnny goes up and kind of goes on Dad's leg, "Daddy?" And Daddy was playing on his phone. "I'm busy." Johnny sat quietly for like 10-15 minutes, but pat, pat, pat. It wasn't like thump, it wasn't pinch, it wasn't yank. It was little taps. "Daddy, I'm busy." He was playing a game, right? He ignored this child for nearly an hour. And I really did feel sorry for little Johnny in this situation, because little Johnny was being quiet. He was being, frankly, very pleasurable for a small child. And yet his dad ignored him. And then you wonder why they start screaming and behaving, because at least they get your attention. But, when you've got maybe a couple of them at it and they're having a fight and, there's kind of snot and dribble and and maybe you're not feeling very well by this point, because somehow you always start feeling a bit rough sitting in the doctor's waiting room. But as I say, God forbid you're late. They never apologise. "Oh, sorry, we're late." I had one, I can't remember what I went in for. They were going to stab me with something, so it was some form of injection. And there were 2 injections they were going to do. Oh no, that's right, I was going in for my blood pressure, and they needed to stab me. And I tried to ask at the time of booking, can you do both at the same time? Don't know, you'll have to ask when you get here, because the receptionists are always a little bit, officious about their life. And so I went in and I went, is there any chance you can do this as well? And they went, "Oh no, we're far too busy." "Yeah, that's why the waiting room's empty, love, and why I've sat here for 20 minutes and no one's gone in, no one's gone out. Don't be telling me you're busy. Just say you don't wanna. Just be honest and say you don't wanna, because..." Yeah, but no, there is definitely worlds apart between patience and bothering, and as I said, little Mrs. Farquhar go, "I can possibly do that." Well, I bet you could, if you tried, if you gave it a go, if you really, really wanted to, you could have done, but you didn't. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's good. Because I am very much a believer that certainly something like this, there is no reason why, as long as you are capable of picking up, say, a pencil and putting it down, you could do this. You might need a bit of help setting it up if you have some limitations. And maybe it would be difficult to poke some pins in a hole, because these are actually pinholes. Listen. Hence they make scrapey noises. So, there may be some aspects you would struggle with. But the general principle of pick this up, place it over here and put it down, if you can do that, you can do this. Will you be the next glorified lace maker of your country? Maybe not. I certainly won't be. But at the same time, you never know. One of the things that I always laughed about at school was part of the reason we all did many subjects at school was to give you the opportunity to find out what you were good at. Well, of course, if you think about many of the subjects that were available to you at school, there were an awful lot of subjects that just weren't even covered. And for many of us crafty types, they didn't really do anything. I mean, in comparison, they did next to no crafting at school. You might have done a brief bit of sewing. You might have, done enough cross stitch to fill a bookmark with crosses the size of a football field. You might have knitted one square. You might have sewn a felt mouse or or something. But that'd have been kind of it. You never actually sat down and make useful things. You never actually had the kind of dopamine hit of completion of a thing that you would actually use. And for me, this was part of the reason I always hated knitting as a child, was because, not because I actually hated knitting, I resented knitting because my mother made me try and knit jumpers. The techniques my mother told me were incorrect and were part of the reason that the finished object was crap. But at the same time, I never finished an object. I would get halfway up the back, because as a child, we were inevitably slow at doing things. And I'd get halfway up the back and I'd been down to growing out of it. So my mother would finish it. So it wasn't my jumper. I didn't make it. I made some of it. But that was it. I only made some of it. I might have got to pick the colours. I might even have got to pick the wool. But, well, if you only make half the back, which is like, a quarter, well, it's about an eighth of it, really. It's hard to feel the pride that you did that. And it's only when you actually do finish it and you wear it and it's warm and it's snug and you enjoy how it looks and you go, wow, I did this, I'm really cool. That is what makes you do your crafting thing, is you get to the end and go, I did this, it was my idea, and I changed this because I didn't want that, and I did a bit of this, and you're proud of yourself for doing it, even if you don't kind of, go to the internet and go, look what I did. There's still a little bit of you that goes, I want, this is exactly how I wanted it to be, I'm pleased with this. And your brain goes, well done, human, here's a bit of dopamine. And that's very true with these squares, for example. I took a pattern that someone else made. I didn't entirely like the pattern the way it was. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it as much as I really felt I should. So I made changes to it. I made it a bit bigger, I changed the stitches in it, I moved a couple of bits kind of around slightly, and then I made a triangle and went, yeah, actually I do like that. That's the square for me, right? Is it perfect? No. But I do like it. I really do. Because I love this stitch, which is called Rose Ground, because I love the little squares with the circles in the middle. I like having the border of now, of course, that could be a coloured border. But for a neck curtain, colours are a little bit weird, so I didn't. And then you've got the meshy bit where, well, that's the bulk of the curtain. So you know, it was very fit for making into a lace curtain. And so off I set, originally to make 18 squares. Well, we're not making 18 squares anymore, we're only doing 9, because I'm making half one and then turning into strips. But at the same time, that's not wrong either. I've just decided that, well, and I will chalk this up to lack of planning and lack of experience. When I started, I knew I could make a square. I knew I'd be able to join a square. And I am not exactly the most experienced lace maker. So my brain said, well, squares are quite good because they've got straight edges. Good for the edges of your thing. I'm not really into frills and stuff, so I quite like, you know, the edges. Then I've got, you know, and you know, I've done this. I've made a square and I quite like the square. And so, yeah, I'm pleased with that. And, you know, obviously I can make a load of squares and join them all together. And it's a thing. So that's what I set out to do. Well, here I am, 7 months on, whatever it is. And it's not that I hate my squares, because I don't. But I have mentally moved on and come up with a better way of doing it. And, well, now I want to do the better way of doing it, because this is something we do as crafters, which is, once we've proved we could do it, we want to do something else now. Because I know I can make a square, really kind of, you know, you've got the first bit and you go, yeah, do. And so you make a couple, maybe even 3 or 4, and your brain's going, yeah, do. Make all the squares and then sew them all together and it'll be great. But by the time you get to the end of that 4th square, you're kind of going, well, I've got, you know, Christ knows how many more of these to make, and, well, they're all the same. And I know how to make them. So it is now just a matter of almost waiting it out. And in waiting it out, well, it brings up the boredom factor. And so the boredom factor kicks in and your brain kind of goes, do I really have to? Do I really? Don't really want to. Can we not? Can I go and do something else? Can I make something else? So, hence, along the way, I have made some other things. Tried some other lace making styles. Some of them more successfully than others. Now, it's not that I did not make the thing. I just choose never to do that again because I hated it. The actual end result was not what I wanted in the world. Now, I am not a lacy girl, which also makes this a dumb hobby, really, but, you know, net curtain was one of the few things I realised that I would use, hence making a net curtain. I don't really do shawls and scarves and, well, you know, I certainly don't want lace on my clothes, so, well, what else do I do with it? As I said, I read on a Kindle, so I don't really need a bookmark, and running out of ideas of things to make. So, I don't eat at the table. I eat, I do eat at the table. I eat at my computer table. You know, I've got a plate. I scoff off the plate, and then I take it in the kitchen again. I don't sit at the dining room table. I don't need a tablecloth. I don't need placemats. So, what would I make? Because, you know, arguably these would make great placemats, but if they were a bit bigger. But you're sitting there again. It's that kind of, well, you know, I could, but don't need one. And so, like, net curtain was the thing. And so, you know, it is I have grown out of wanting it to be a square. It's not that I will hate it, I won't. But my brain's really hyped now about making a strip, not making a square. So making myself make a square is proving really hard. Yesterday I got caught up, and the next thing I knew it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I blinked a couple more times and it was 4:30. So hence I didn't stream yesterday. Today I'm really tired because I didn't get any sleep last night. So to be honest, this is going to be the end of the stream. But that is my fault for staying up all frigging night and then having a really crappy day at work. And because I had a crappy day at work, I'm going to get myself some food, get myself a nice hot drink, and I'm just going to stare gently at some stuff on my computer. I'll probably watch my favourite streaming dude. And I will be here 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So that's, checking what time it is. It's 9 o'clock here now, so that's minus 7 hours from now tomorrow. And we will stonkingly work through this bit of square, whether I like it or not. And the answer will be probably not, but, you know, we will continue with the square. And maybe do a bit of strip if we really start hating on it. And I will see you for a good stream tomorrow. Feel free to bring your rants and raves about the world, and especially anything that you wish to rant and rave openly. So obviously, probably best not to bitch about employers too hard, or at least specifically. You know, you can bitch about a generalness. Don't name things, because, well, that can get really problematic for you. But other than that, let's, you know, bring your rants, bring your crafts, bring it all together, and we will sit down and we will do some hard crafting tomorrow, probably about 4 or 5 hours of it, and then I will go away and stuff my face with takeout and have more snooze, because it'll be the weekend and I will be a happy soul. So I'm sorry if I've not been my cheery self today, but we did have a nice raid, and that's really nice. I'm going to see who's streaming now and what they're doing, because, well, that's the thing. It is I actually do this a lot. I do this quite a bit, but quite often who's actually streaming are people they're not crafters, if you know what I mean. Yeah, see, again, they're not crafters. They've got the ferret dudes, we've got someone playing a silly game, someone making a game, someone playing a game, and Asmongold chatting about something, drama in some game. So that's not really in keeping with what you came here for. So I'm going to leave you to find your own next port of call, should you wish to. I don't have any recommendations for you. But I do thank you once again for coming and spending time with me today. We didn't do a lot, but we did spend an hour doing it, so can't fight everything. Thank you for coming, and I hope I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.